It was a cold, rainy night, the kind where raindrops hit the windshield like tiny bullets and the streets glistened under the dim glow of streetlights. The city had fallen silent, except for the sound of thunder rolling in the distance and the occasional car rushing past. Emily drove through the rain, her eyes blurry not just from the downpour but from tears that refused to stop. She had just left a friend's party, trying to pretend for one night that everything was fine, that she wasn't a single mom struggling to hold her life together. Her heart felt heavy. The laughter and bright lights of the party had faded behind her, and all that remained was the familiar weight of loneliness. Her husband had left 2 years ago, unable to handle the responsibility of fatherhood, leaving Emily to raise their little daughter, Lily, on her own. Life had not been kind. Bills piled up, her job barely covered rent, and every day felt like a mountain she had to climb barefoot. That night, a friend had convinced her to take a drink. Just one, you deserve it, she had said. But one drink turned into two, and as Emily drove home, she realized she might have made a mistake. The rain intensified, the wipers barely keeping up. Her phone buzzed with a message from her babysitter, "Lily's asleep. Drive safe." Emily smiled weakly and typed a quick reply before tossing her phone on the seat. But as she looked up, a pair of headlights appeared in front of her. She gasped, swerving sharply. The tires lost grip, and the car spun out of control. Metal screeched. Glass shattered. The world turned upside down. When everything stopped, Emily realized she couldn't move. Her car was half off the road, smoke rising from the hood. Pain shot through her body. Rain poured in through the cracked windshield, mixing with her tears. "Help," she whispered, her voice trembling. No one answered, but fate had other plans. A black luxury SUV slowed down nearby. Inside was Alexander Reed, a man known for his power, his wealth, and his unshakable calm. He was the CEO of a multinational firm, driving home from a late meeting. Normally, he would have kept going. People like him rarely stopped on dark roads. But something about the sight of the wrecked car in the rain made him pull over. He grabbed his umbrella and ran toward the vehicle. Through the broken window, he saw a woman, unconscious, her hair wet, blood trickling down her forehead. Without a second thought, he forced the door open, his expensive suit getting soaked. "Hey, can you hear me?" he shouted over the storm. Emily's eyes fluttered open. She saw a man's face illuminated by lightning, sharp jawline, soaked hair, concern etched in his expression. "It's okay," he said firmly. "You're safe now." Her breathing was ragged. My daughter," she murmured weakly. "Please, she's waiting for me." Alexander's heart clenched. "You'll see her soon, I promise." He lifted her out of the wreckage, rain drenching them both. For a moment, as he carried her in his arms, time seemed to stand still. The storm faded into the background. It was just him and her, the broken woman and the man who had everything but warmth in his life. He placed her in his SUV and called emergency services. The hospital wasn't far, but he couldn't wait. He drove as fast as he could, glancing at her every few seconds. "Stay with me," he kept saying, his tone commanding yet gentle. "You're going to be fine." When they reached the hospital, doctors rushed her to the emergency room. Alexander waited in the corridor, drenched, his heart beating fast. He didn't even know her name, yet he felt a strange pull, a sense of responsibility, maybe even connection. Hours later, the doctor approached. "She's stable now," he said. "You got her here just in time." Alexander nodded, relief washing over him. When he entered her room, Emily was awake, her arm in a sling, a bandage on her forehead. She looked small, fragile, but her eyes carried a quiet strength. "You saved me," she whispered. "You're lucky I was driving that way," he replied. "Or maybe I'm the lucky one." She frowned slightly, confused. He smiled faintly. "I mean, maybe I needed to be reminded that not everything in life is about business and success." Over the next few days, Alexander visited her often. He brought food, flowers, and even arranged for her hospital bills to be paid anonymously. When she was discharged, he insisted on dropping her home. Emily hesitated but eventually agreed. Her apartment was modest, small, warm, filled with the scent of vanilla candles and children's books. When he met Lily, her 5-year-old daughter, something inside him softened. The little girl ran up to him and said, "Are you the man who saved my mommy?" He smiled. "I guess I am." From that day on, their lives slowly intertwined. Alexander began checking in on them, sometimes dropping by with groceries or helping Emily with small things around the house. He never expected anything in return. For once, his heart led the way instead of his business instincts. Emily, on the other hand, struggled with guilt and gratitude. She didn't like accepting help, especially from a stranger. But Alexander wasn't like anyone she had ever met. Despite his wealth, he was humble, patient, and surprisingly gentle with her daughter. She found herself opening up, telling him about her past, her struggles, her dreams. One evening, weeks later, Alexander invited her and Lily to his company's charity gala. Emily hesitated, but he assured her, "You deserve to be somewhere bright for once." He even sent over a beautiful dress for her to wear. When she arrived, she felt out of place at first, surrounded by the city's elite. But Alexander stayed by her side, introducing her proudly as a friend who reminds me what real strength looks like. That night, as they stood on the balcony overlooking the rain-soaked city, Emily whispered, "I still don't understand why you helped me." He looked at her, his voice soft but steady. "Because I saw someone worth saving. And maybe saving you saved me too." Tears welled up in her eyes. "You don't even know me." He smiled. "I know enough." Time passed, and their bond deepened. Alexander found himself visiting her more often, not as a savior but as a man who had found something real in a world full of emptiness. Emily's laughter returned, and Lily began calling him Uncle Alex. Months later, on another rainy night, they stood together again, this time not on a road of tragedy, but on Emily's porch, watching the rain fall gently. "Funny," she said softly, "how the rain brought you to me." He took her hand, looking into her eyes. "It didn't just bring me to you," he whispered. "It brought me home." The storm had once broken her, but now, rain no longer scared Emily. It reminded her of the night everything changed, not because of pain, but because, in her darkest moment, someone chose to care. And in that choice, two broken hearts began to heal, one belonging to a struggling single mom, and the other to a lonely CEO who finally learned that love, not power, was the greatest rescue of all. That night, as thunder rolled gently in the distance, they stood together, proof that sometimes the most beautiful stories begin in the rain.